Dr. Kang Minho stared at the numbers on his screen and rubbed his tired eyes. The Luna Research Station was quiet at this hour, with most of the crew asleep in their pods. Only the soft hum of life support systems and the distant rumble of mining equipment broke the silence. Minho had been working on the same calculations for 3 months now, trying to make sense of something that should not exist. The Galactic Council had been very clear about faster-than-light travel. Their technology was the only proven method: massive ships that could bend space and time through enormous energy costs. The process took weeks of preparation and left crews exhausted from the strain. Most alien species accepted this as the natural limit of physics. Humans, as usual, refused to accept limits. Park Hana walked into the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. She was Minho's research partner and had been working just as hard on their impossible project. Her dark hair was messy from hours of work, and her eyes showed the same confusion that Minho felt. "Still getting the same readings?" she asked, handing him a cup. Minho nodded and pointed at his screen. "The quantum fold calculations keep showing this anomaly. According to everything the Council taught us, this pattern should collapse immediately. But our simulations show it holding stable for hours." Hana sat down at her own workstation and pulled up the same data. "Maybe we made an error in the base equations?" "I checked them 50 times. Lee Do-hyun verified the math twice. Even Choi Yuna ran her own calculations and got the same results." The Yamal research team had started this project 6 months ago with simple curiosity. The Council's warp drives worked by creating a bubble around a ship that contracted space in front and expanded it behind. This let ships move faster than light without actually breaking the speed limit. But the energy requirements were massive, and the technology was closely guarded by the Council's oldest species. Humans had been part of the Galactic Council for only 30 years. They were still considered a young and primitive species by most aliens. The Council had shared basic warp technology with them, but humans always wanted to understand how things worked instead of just using them. Lee Do-hyun entered the lab, carrying a tablet filled with engineering reports. He was the team's chief engineer and had spent weeks building the equipment needed for their experiments. His expertise with human technology often surprised their alien colleagues, who thought humans were too simple to understand complex systems. "The quantum resonance chamber is ready for another test," Do-hyun said. "But I have to warn you, the power readings are still showing patterns that don't match any known physics." Choi Yuna followed him into the lab. She was their quantum physicist and the person who first suggested their current approach. Where the Council focused on bending space-time, Yuna had proposed something different. What if they could manipulate the quantum substrate that space-time itself rested on? "The substrate approach is still theoretical," Yuna said, settling into her chair. "But our small-scale tests keep showing positive results. We're creating stable quantum fields that shouldn't be possible." Minho looked around at his team. They were all humans, all curious about the universe in ways that seemed to worry their alien supervisors. The Council had assigned them to work on safe research projects, but humans had a habit of finding unsafe possibilities in safe situations. "Show me the latest test results," Minho said. Yuna activated the main display screen. Instead of the complex mathematical formulas they usually worked with, she showed them a simple visualization. A small sphere of energy appeared on the screen, spinning slowly and glowing with soft blue light. "This is a quantum substrate manipulation field," she explained. "We created it yesterday using 1/10 the power that a Council warp drive needs for the same size. But instead of bending space around an object, we're changing the fundamental properties of space itself." Hana leaned forward, studying the image. "What does that mean in practical terms?" "In theory, an object inside this field wouldn't travel through space," Yuna said. "It would exist in a state where distance becomes meaningless. Moving from one point to another would be instantaneous because the space between those points would temporarily not exist." Do-hyun whistled softly. "That sounds like something the Council would call impossible." "They would," Minho agreed. "Which is why we need to be very careful about how we proceed." The truth was that the Council had been less than welcoming to human innovation. Every time humans suggested a new approach to existing technology, they were told that their ideas were either impossible or dangerous. After 30 years of being treated like children, many humans had started conducting research in secret. Kim Ji-won entered the lab, looking concerned. She was their communications officer and liaison with Earth's government. Her job was to keep their research within acceptable boundaries and report any significant discoveries to both Earth and the Council. "We have a problem," Jiwon said. "I've been monitoring Council communications, and they're asking questions about our power consumption. Someone noticed that we're using unusual energy patterns." Minho felt his stomach tighten. The Council monitored all human research activities, supposedly for safety reasons. But many humans suspected the real reason was to prevent them from developing anything that might challenge Council authority. "How much time do we have?" Hana asked. "Maybe a few days before they send an inspector," Jiwon replied. "They're already suspicious because our energy readings don't match any known research patterns." Yuna stood up suddenly, her eyes bright with an idea. "What if we show them something that looks normal, but actually proves our theory?" "What do you mean?" Minho asked. "We build a small demonstration device, something that appears to be a standard warp field generator but actually uses our quantum substrate approach. If it works, we'll have proof that our method is not only possible, but more efficient than theirs." Do-Yoon was already nodding. "I can modify one of our test chambers to look like a miniature warp core. If the Council inspector sees familiar technology, they might not look too closely at what we're actually doing." Minho considered the risks. If they were caught conducting unauthorized research, the consequences could be severe. The Council had shut down human research projects before, and some scientists had been banned from further work. But if they were right about their discovery, it could change everything. "We proceed carefully," Minho decided. "Build the demonstration device, but make sure we can explain everything in terms the Council will accept. We're not hiding our research, just presenting it in a way they can understand." The team spent the next 2 days working around the clock. Do-Hyun built a device that looked exactly like a scaled-down version of Council warp technology, but inside, Yuna's quantum substrate manipulators replaced the traditional space-bending equipment. The result was something that appeared familiar but operated on completely different principles. When they activated the device for the first time, the results exceeded their wildest expectations. Instead of the slow, energy-intensive process of creating a warp bubble, their device instantly created a stable field that made a small test object disappear from normal space-time before reappearing exactly where they wanted it. Hana stared at the readings in amazement. "The energy consumption is 90% lower than equivalent Council technology, and the process is instantaneous." "More than that?" Yuna added, her voice filled with excitement. "Look at these quantum signatures. The test object didn't travel through space at all. For approximately 3 seconds, it existed in a state where our normal understanding of physics simply didn't apply." Minho realized they had stumbled onto something extraordinary. This wasn't just a more efficient way to achieve faster-than-light travel. They had discovered a method of manipulating reality itself at the most fundamental level. Jiwon's communication console chimed with an incoming message. She read it quickly, and her face went pale. "Council Inspector Veltar will arrive tomorrow morning for a routine evaluation of our research progress." The team looked at each other, knowing that their discovery was about to face its first real test. They had less than 12 hours to prepare for a meeting that could either launch humanity into a new era of technological advancement or end their careers in disgrace. Minho made a decision that would change the course of human history. "We show them everything." Council Inspector Veltar arrived at Luna Research Station exactly on schedule, the tall crystalline being moved through the corridors with the confidence of someone who had inspected hundreds of primitive research facilities. His translucent blue body reflected the station's lights in patterns that most humans found beautiful, but his attitude made it clear he considered this visit a waste of time. Dr. Kang Minho met the inspector at the airlock, along with his entire team. Veltar's mechanical translator converted his harmonic language into flat, emotionless human words. "Dr. Minho, I am here to evaluate your research progress and ensure compliance with Council safety protocols. I trust this will be a brief inspection." "Of course, Inspector," Minho replied. "We're eager to show you what we've accomplished." Veltar followed them to the main laboratory, where their modified test chamber sat waiting. To the inspector's trained eye, it appeared to be a standard warp field generator, though smaller than usual. The crystalline being's internal light patterns shifted to indicate mild interest. You have been working on miniaturization techniques? Veltar asked. Among other things, Park Hana said carefully. We've been exploring ways to improve efficiency in faster-than-light systems. Choi Yuna activated the demonstration device. The familiar hum of a warp core filled the room, though. The sound came from speakers rather than actual space-bending equipment. Inside the test chamber, a small metal sphere sat waiting. Standard test parameters, Lee Do-yun announced, reading from a display screen. Displacing test object from point A to point B using minimal energy requirements. Veltar watched with the bored expression of someone who had seen the same demonstration countless times. Young species always thought they could improve on technology that had worked perfectly for thousands of years. The inspector expected to see a weak warp field that would barely move the test object a few centimeters. Yuna initiated the sequence. For a split second, the metal sphere simply vanished. No gradual fade, no distortion effect, no energy discharge. One moment it existed at point A, and the next moment it materialized at point B, as if it had always been there. Veltar's crystalline, body flashed bright red, a sign of extreme surprise among his species. He stepped closer to the test chamber, his harmonics rising to frequencies that hurt human ears. Replay the sequence, he demanded. The team exchanged glances. They had expected surprise, but not this level of shock. Yuna ran the test again, and again the metal sphere disappeared and reappeared instantly. What is the power consumption? Veltar asked, his translator struggling with the rapid harmonics. Do-hyun checked his readings. Approximately 10% of what our calculations suggest a standard warp field would require for the same displacement. The inspector's light patterns shifted through several colors that the humans had never seen before. He pulled out a device that began scanning their equipment with intense beams of energy. After several minutes, he straightened up with what could only be described as confusion. This device is not generating a warp field, Veltar stated. No, sir, it's not, Minho admitted. We developed an alternative approach to faster-than-light displacement. Alternative approach? The inspector's voice rose in pitch. There is no alternative approach. The warp drive is the only method for achieving faster-than-light travel. This has been established for 50,000 years. Kim Ji-won stepped forward. With respect, Inspector, our research suggests that previous assumptions may have been incomplete. Veltar's crystalline body began flashing in rapid sequences of color. He activated a communication device and began transmitting in harmonics too fast and complex for the human translators to follow. After several minutes, he received a response that made his entire body dim to a pale gray. The Council's Science Directorate requires immediate detailed analysis of this technology, he announced. All research must cease until further notice. We understand your caution, Minho said, but we believe this technology could benefit all species in the Council. You understand nothing, Veltar snapped. Primitive species lack the wisdom to comprehend the dangers of uncontrolled innovation. This research facility is now under Council oversight. The inspector left immediately, transmitting constant updates to his superiors as he went. The human team watched him go, knowing that their simple demonstration had triggered something much larger than they had expected. 3 days later, Captain Nam Tae-ho received orders that changed everything. He commanded a modified cargo vessel, called the New Soul, which had been equipped with an experimental version of the human FTL system. The ship was officially listed as a test platform for improved warp core efficiency, but Tae-ho knew the truth. His navigation officer, Yoon Sora, was one of the few people outside the research team who understood what they were really testing. She had worked with Yuna to install the quantum substrate manipulators throughout the ship's hull, disguising them as standard warp coil housings. Are you sure about this? Sora asked as they prepared for launch. If something goes wrong, we could end up scattered across several dimensions. Tae-ho smiled grimly. If we don't test this technology, the Council will confiscate it and we'll never know what we accomplished. Besides, the small-scale tests have been perfect. The New Soul launched from Luna orbit with a Council observation ship following at a safe distance. Observer Veltar was aboard the alien vessel, along with several other inspectors who had arrived to investigate the human anomaly. Tae-ho activated the ship's communication system. This is new Sol requesting permission to begin FTL test sequence. Permission. Granted, came the reply from the observation ship. Proceed with standard warp protocols. But Taiho had no intention of following standard protocols. He nodded to Sora, who began the activation sequence for their quantum substrate drive. Instead of the minutes-long process required for traditional warp cores, their system came online instantly. Destination locked, Sora announced. Proxima, Centauri system, as requested. The journey should have taken 3 days using Council technology. Even the most efficient warp drives needed time to build up field strength and navigate the complex mathematics of folded space. But the new Sol simply vanished from normal space-time. Aboard the observation ship, Veltar watched his sensors, with growing alarm. The human vessel hadn't created a warp field. It hadn't bent space or generated the massive energy signatures associated with FTL travel. According to every instrument on his ship, the new Sol had simply stopped existing. "This is impossible," declared Morden, the ancient Nexari who served as the Council's chief science advisor. His spider-like form moved nervously around the observation deck as he tried to make sense of the readings. "Matter cannot simply disappear from our reality." "Yet that appears to be exactly what happened," Veltar replied. "The humans have achieved something that contradicts our fundamental understanding of physics." 4 hours later, the new Sol reappeared in the Proxima Centauri system, exactly where Sora had plotted their destination. The journey that should have taken 3 days had been completed in less than 5 hours, including time spent conducting surveys of the target system. Taiho opened a communication channel to Earth. "Mission accomplished. The quantum substrate drive performed flawlessly. We experienced no navigation difficulties, no energy drain, and no adverse effects on crew or equipment." When the new Sol returned to Luna orbit, they found a fleet of Council ships waiting for them. Representatives from dozens of species had arrived to witness what many were calling either the greatest breakthrough or the greatest threat in galactic history. Morden himself came aboard the human vessel to examine their technology. The ancient being's multiple eyes studied every detail of their drive system, while his mechanical limbs took precise measurements. After hours of investigation, he reached a conclusion that terrified him. "This technology does not bend space-time," he announced to the assembled Council representatives. "It manipulates the quantum substrate that underlies reality itself. In theory, this approach could allow access to parallel dimensions, alternate timelines, and states of existence that we cannot even comprehend." Veltar's crystalline body flashed deep purple, indicating extreme concern. "What are the implications?" "The implications," Morden said slowly, "are that these humans have rediscovered something that the Council has spent 50,000 years trying to forget. The meeting that followed would determine the future relationship between humanity and the galactic community. But already, word was spreading through secret channels that the youngest species in the Council had achieved something that even the oldest and most advanced civilizations considered impossible." In his private quarters, Morden reviewed ancient records that few beings in the galaxy were authorized to access. The quantum signatures from the human FTL drive matched perfectly with energy patterns found on dozens of worlds throughout Council space. Worlds that had been mysteriously abandoned millions of years ago. Worlds where entire civilizations had simply vanished without explanation. The humans had unknowingly followed the same path as the legendary Forerunners, and Morden knew that this discovery would force the Council to confront secrets they had hidden for longer than most species had existed. Dr. Song Jiwan had been digging in the red dirt of Mars for 3 weeks, but today felt different. The xenoarchaeologist specialized in studying alien ruins, and the site near Olympus Mons had puzzled researchers for years. The structures were clearly artificial, but they didn't match any known architectural styles from Council species. Jiwan's scanner beeped as it detected another energy signature buried beneath the surface. These readings had been appearing all over the excavation site, but today the patterns seemed familiar. He pulled out his tablet and compared the new data to files he had received from Luna Research Station. The quantum signatures matched perfectly. Han. Mira received Jiwan's message while working in the Council archives on SciFiPrime. As a translator and cultural liaison, she had access to historical records that most humans never saw. The urgent request from Mars made her search through databases she had never explored before. What she found made her hands shake. Deep in the restricted archives, sealed under classifications that required authorization from 3 different council departments, were reports about worlds that had been lost to natural disasters. Dozens of planets where advanced civilizations had simply vanished, leaving behind only empty cities and strange energy readings. The energy readings matched what Ji-hwan had found on Mars. They matched what the Lunar research team had discovered. They matched something the Council had been hiding for 50,000 years. Mira activated a secure communication channel to Earth. "I need to speak with Ambassador Shin Woo-sung immediately. This is a matter of galactic security." Shin Woo-sung had been humanity's representative to the Council for 5 years. He was used to dealing with alien politics and their tendency to treat humans like children who needed constant supervision. But the message from Mira contained information that changed everything he thought he knew about galactic history. The ambassador called an emergency meeting with the human research team. Dr. Kang Min-ho and his colleagues gathered in a secure conference room, while Mira transmitted her findings from the Council archives. The official records list 47 worlds where advanced civilizations disappeared without explanation, Mira reported. The Council attributes these losses to natural disasters, cosmic events, or unexplained accidents. But the classified reports tell a different story. She displayed energy signatures from multiple worlds, all showing the same quantum patterns that humanity had recently discovered. These civilizations didn't die out. According to the sealed records, they achieved some form of technological transcendence and simply left normal space-time behind. Park Hana studied the data with growing excitement. "This confirms our theoretical models. The quantum substrate manipulation technology doesn't just enable faster travel. It provides access to higher dimensional states of existence." Choi Yuna nodded. "We thought we were developing a better form of FTL drive, but we actually rediscovered something much more significant." Ji-hwan's voice came through the communication link from Mars. "The ruins here show signs of a civilization that achieved incredible technological advancement, but there are no bodies, no signs of conflict, no indication of natural disaster. They simply left everything behind and disappeared." Minho felt pieces of a massive puzzle clicking into place. The Council knows about this. They've known for thousands of years that this technology leads to something beyond physical existence, which explains their reaction to our research, added Lee Do-yoon. "They're not worried about us developing better ships. They're terrified that we might follow the same path as these vanished civilizations." Ambassador Shin realized the implications immediately. "We need to confront the Council with this information. If they've been deliberately steering species away from this discovery, they're limiting the evolution of entire civilizations." The confrontation took place in the Council's Grand Assembly Hall, a massive chamber that could hold representatives from thousands of species. Shin Woo-sung stood at the central podium, surrounded by delegates whose forms ranged from crystalline beings like Veltar to gas cloud entities that existed in specialized atmospheric containers. Council Chairman Zefkol presided over the session from his elevated platform. The ancient being's form was hidden within a mobility suit that had been necessary for millions of years, since his species had transcended physical bodies long ago. The irony was not lost on the humans. Ambassador Shin, the chairman's artificial voice echoed through the chamber. "You have requested this emergency session to discuss humanity's recent technological discoveries. The Council has already expressed its concerns about your species' reckless experimentation." Shin activated the holographic displays around the podium. Images of abandoned worlds, energy signatures, and classified reports filled the air above the assembly. Chairman Zefkol, "We have discovered that humanity's research has rediscovered technology that the Council has been suppressing for 50,000 years. A wave of harmonic sounds, electronic pulses, and other forms of alien communication filled the chamber as delegates reacted to the revelation. Many species were seeing this information for the first time. The civilizations that vanished from these 47 worlds didn't suffer disasters," Shin continued. "They achieved technological transcendence using the same quantum substrate manipulation that humanity has recently developed. The Council has been deliberately preventing younger species from making this same discovery." Chairman Zefkol's mobility suit emitted a low hum that indicated extreme displeasure. Ambassador, you speak of matters beyond your comprehension. The path you describe leads to the dissolution of physical reality as we understand it. You mean it leads to evolution beyond your control? Shin replied. These transcended civilizations became what you call the Forerunners. They didn't disappear. They evolved into something greater. Mordun, the Nexari science advisor, spoke from his position near the chairman's platform. The young human speaks truth, but truth without wisdom. The Forerunners achieved transcendence, yes. But in doing so, they abandoned those who could not follow. They left behind empty worlds and broken civilizations. Because you prevented others from following the same path, Shin accused. You've been controlling galactic development to maintain your own power structure. The chamber erupted in chaos as species began arguing among themselves. Some demanded access to the suppressed information, while others supported the Council's protective policies. Through it all, Chairman Zefkol remained silent, his ancient mind calculating the implications of humanity's discovery. Finally, the chairman activated the chamber's silence field, cutting off all communication except his own voice. The Council will recess to consider these revelations. All human faster-than-light research is hereby classified as a galactic security threat. Any attempt to continue this work will be met with immediate intervention. As the session ended, delegates from dozens of species approached Shin privately. Many expressed interest in learning more about human discoveries, while others warned him that the Council would not tolerate threats to galactic stability. But the most significant conversation came from an unexpected source. As Shin prepared to leave the chamber, Chairman Zefkol's personal aide approached him with a private message. The chairman requests a confidential meeting, the aide whispered. There are aspects of this situation that cannot be discussed in open session. The private meeting took place in the chairman's personal quarters, deep within the council's citadel. Zefkol's mobility suit powered down, revealing the truth about his species' evolution. What remained was a being of pure energy, barely contained within the suit's force fields. You see now why the council fears your discovery, Zefkol said. His voice no longer filtered through mechanical translators. My people achieved transcendence millions of years ago. We exist now as beings of pure consciousness, tethered to physical reality only through these crude mechanical forms. Shin stared at the energy being before him. You're one of them. You're a forerunner. I am what remains when a species chooses transcendence over physical existence, the chairman replied. We achieved great power, yes, but at the cost of everything that made us alive. We cannot touch, cannot feel, cannot experience the simple pleasures of biological existence. So you've been preventing other species from making the same choice? We have been protecting them from our mistakes, Zefkol said sadly. But your species has rediscovered the path despite our efforts. Now, we must decide whether to stop you by force or allow you to make the same choices we did. The meeting ended with a warning that changed everything. Humanity had 48 hours to cease all research into quantum substrate manipulation. If they refused, the Council would implement emergency protocols that had not been used for thousands of years. As Shin returned to Earth with this ultimatum, he carried knowledge that would force humanity to make the most important decision in their history. They could accept Council limitations and remain safely biological, or they could continue their research and risk becoming something beyond human understanding. The choice would determine not just humanity's future, but the future of every species in the galaxy. Admiral Bei Hyunwoo watched the Council fleet approach through the viewport of his command ship. Hundreds of alien vessels moved in perfect formation toward the edges of human space, their weapons powered and their intentions clear. The ultimatum had expired 3 hours ago, and humanity had given its answer by continuing their research. The human defense fleet was tiny compared to the Council armada. Earth's military had only existed for 30 years, since joining the galactic community, and most of their ships were converted civilian vessels. But what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in innovation. All ships report ready for quantum substrate displacement, announced Captain Jang Sohee from her command post on the asteroid base Ceres station. The hidden facility had been constructed in secret over the past week, equipped with the most advanced version of human FTL technology. Council forces are maintaining standard formation, reported Lieutenant Ko Minwoo from the sensor station. They don't expect us to be able to move our ships without visible warp signatures. Hyunwoo smiled grimly. The Council's greatest strength was also their weakness. After 50,000 years of using the same technology, they couldn't imagine alternatives. Their sensors were designed to detect warp fields, their tactics assumed predictable movement patterns, and their weapons targeted ships that followed known physics. Execute Dispersal Pattern Alpha, Hyunwoo ordered. Across the human fleet, ships simply vanished. No energy buildup, no distortion effects, no warning signs that traditional sensors could detect. One moment the human vessels were arrayed in defensive positions, and the next moment they had disappeared into quantum substrate space. War Commander Kethmore led the Council's enforcement fleet from his massive dreadnought. The reptilian being had conducted hundreds of military operations against rebellious species, and he expected this to be another routine demonstration of Council power. Young civilizations always submitted when faced with overwhelming force. Human. Vessels have activated some form of cloaking technology, reported his tactical officer. We are unable to maintain sensor locks. Kethmore studied the tactical display with growing confusion. The human ships hadn't cloaked. According to his instruments, they had simply ceased to exist in normal space-time. This was impossible according to everything he knew about physics and warfare. Begin bombardment of human installations, he ordered. If they want to hide their ships, we will destroy their infrastructure instead. The Council fleet opened fire on Luna Research Station, Earth's orbital platforms, and the Mars colony. Massive energy beams capable of melting continents struck what appeared to be empty space and harmlessly dissipated. The human facilities were no longer occupying the same dimensional space as the attacking ships. Dr. Lim Junsu watched the futile bombardment from his laboratory deep beneath the lunar surface. His team had spent the past month working frantically to complete their research before the Council could stop them. Now they understood why the ancient Forerunners had chosen transcendence over remaining in physical reality. The quantum substrate manipulation allows us to exist in parallel dimensional states, he explained to his colleagues. We can observe normal space-time, but attacks from that dimension cannot affect us. We're essentially existing in multiple realities simultaneously. Dr. Yang Hyeji checked the readings from their latest experiments. The energy requirements are still minimal compared to traditional technology. We could maintain this dimensional state indefinitely. More importantly, added researcher Park Sang-hyun, we can choose when and where to return to normal space. We have complete tactical superiority over any force that operates in single-dimensional reality. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just developed better transportation technology, they had discovered a method of existing outside the normal laws of physics, immune to conventional weapons and able to strike at will. Minky had been one of the few humans who supported Council oversight of their research. As a former diplomat, he understood the value of galactic stability and had argued for cooperation with established authorities. But watching the Council's response changed his perspective completely. They're not trying to protect us, he realized, during an emergency meeting of Earth's government. They're trying to prevent us from evolving beyond their control. The Council maintains power by keeping other species dependent on their technology and limited by their understanding of physics. President Lee Young-ho listened to reports from across human space. The Council bombardment had been completely ineffective, but their intent was clear. They would rather destroy humanity than allow them to achieve technological independence. What are our options? The President asked. Admiral Hyunwoo spoke from his command ship, still hidden in quantum substrate space. We can maintain our dimensional displacement indefinitely. The Council cannot detect us, cannot attack us, and cannot predict our movements. From a military standpoint, we are essentially invulnerable. But we can't hide forever, pointed out Minister Kim Tae-hyung. Our civilization needs resources, trade, and contact with other species. We can't live in isolation. Dr. Lim Junsu offered a different perspective. We don't need to hide. Our research shows that the quantum substrate manipulation can be scaled up dramatically. Instead of just moving ships, we could potentially move entire planets into parallel dimensional states. The idea was breathtaking in its scope. Humanity could remove their worlds from normal space-time, making them completely inaccessible to Council forces while maintaining the ability to interact with the galaxy on their own terms. Captain Jang. So he coordinated the resistance efforts from her hidden asteroid base. Using quantum substrate communication systems, she could maintain contact with human forces throughout the galaxy without the Council being able to intercept or trace their signals. "Report from the outer colonies," she announced. "Council forces are attempting to blockade our trade routes, but they can't stop ships they can't see. Our merchants are still moving freely through Council space." The Resistance was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that could operate with complete impunity, striking from dimensions that their enemies couldn't access or defend against. But the humans faced a moral dilemma that would define their future. War Commander Kethmore grew increasingly frustrated as his fleet proved useless against an enemy they couldn't find. Every tactical doctrine he knew was based on the assumption that battles took place in normal space-time between visible opponents. The humans had fundamentally changed the nature of warfare itself. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender demands from human forces." "Surrender demands?" Kethmore couldn't hide his surprise. "They want us to surrender?" The message came from Admiral Hyunwoo, transmitted through quantum substrate channels that bypassed all Council security systems. "War Commander Kethmore, your fleet is completely vulnerable to attack from dimensional states you cannot access. We could destroy every ship in your armada without you being able to retaliate. However, humanity seeks peace, not conquest. We offer you a choice," the message continued. "Withdraw your forces and report to the Council that humanity cannot be suppressed by conventional means. Or continue this hopeless conflict and face the consequences of fighting an enemy that exists beyond your understanding of physics." Kethmore realized he was facing the first truly asymmetric conflict in Council history. His massive fleet, designed to intimidate through overwhelming force, was useless against opponents who could strike from parallel dimensions and disappear before retaliation was possible. But the most shocking development came when species throughout Council space began requesting information about human technology. The demonstration of dimensional manipulation had not gone unnoticed, and many civilizations were questioning why the Council had kept such possibilities secret. Dr. Song Ji-won's archaeological discoveries on Mars provided the final piece of the puzzle. Hidden beneath the ancient ruins, his team found intact Forerunner technology that proved the transcended civilizations had not abandoned their worlds out of indifference. They had left behind gifts for future species to discover when they were ready to make the same evolutionary leap. The Forerunners knew this day would come, Ji-won reported. They prepared for the possibility that younger species would rediscover transcendence technology despite Council suppression. These ruins contained complete technical specifications for dimensional manipulation systems. The knowledge changed everything. Humanity no longer needed to develop their technology through trial and error. They had access to millions of years of advanced research from civilizations that had already mastered the transition between dimensional states. As Council forces retreated in defeat, humanity faced the most important decision in their history. They could use their newfound power to dominate the galaxy, or they could follow the path of the Forerunners and transcend physical reality entirely. The choice would determine not just the future of humanity, but the future of every species in the galaxy who had been limited by Council restrictions for 50,000 years. Professor An Dae-hyun stood before the largest quantum substrate manipulator ever constructed by human hands. The device filled an entire crater on the dark side of Earth's moon, its crystalline components humming with energy that existed in 17 different dimensional states simultaneously. After months of preparation, humanity was ready for their ultimate experiment. Working alongside him, Dr. Seo Minji and researcher Jung Homan made final calibrations to the system that would change the nature of human existence forever. The technology they had developed could now be scaled to affect every human being in the galaxy, offering each person a choice that no species had been given for 50,000 years. "All quantum field generators are synchronized," Minji reported. "We can maintain stable dimensional bridges to every human settlement within a range of 200 light-years." Hallman checked the consciousness transfer protocols they had developed based on Forerunner technology found in the Martian ruins. "The transition process is completely voluntary. Anyone who chooses to remain in physical form will be unaffected by the field activation." Dae-hyun nodded, understanding the weight of what they were about to offer their species. Transcendence meant leaving behind everything that defined human existence: physical bodies, Material possessions, biological needs, and sensory experiences would all become unnecessary. But in return, humanity would gain the ability to manipulate reality across multiple dimensions and exist as pure consciousness unbound by the laws of physics. Captain Huang Xiongjae commanded humanity's most advanced vessel, the Inshan Rising. The ship had been constructed using a combination of human innovation and Forerunner technology, making it capable of existing in up to 12-dimensional states simultaneously. As Council fleets gathered for one final attempt to stop humanity's evolution, Xiongjae prepared to demonstrate just how far beyond normal physics humans had progressed. "Sir," reported Navigation Officer Kim Daewon, "Council forces are moving to surround our position. War Commander Kethmore is leading personally, along with representatives from 47 different species." Xiongjae smiled as he studied the tactical display. The Council fleet included every major military force in the galaxy, assembled for what they believed would be the final confrontation with rebellious humanity. They had no idea they were about to witness the birth of a new form of existence. "Activate the Transcendence Protocol," Xiongjae ordered. The Incheon Rising began to phase through dimensions at a rate that made tracking impossible. The ship appeared to exist in dozens of locations simultaneously, each image slightly transparent as it occupied parallel realities. To the Council observers, it seemed as if humanity had learned to break the fundamental laws that governed existence itself. On Earth, President Park Kyungmin addressed the global population for the last time as leader of a purely physical civilization. "My fellow humans, today we face a choice that will determine the future of our species. We can remain as we are, limited by biological needs and physical laws, or we can join our consciousness with the quantum substrate of reality itself." The president's words were transmitted across human space using quantum substrate communication, systems that the Council could neither intercept nor block. Every human settlement, from the colonies on Mars to the research stations in the outer systems, received the message simultaneously. "The choice is individual and irreversible," President Park continued. "Those who choose transcendence will become beings of pure consciousness, capable of manipulating reality across multiple dimensions. Those who choose to remain physical will continue human civilization as we have always known it, but with access to technology that makes us independent of Council control." Dr. Ko Yunhai led the team responsible for ensuring that physical humanity would survive and thrive regardless of how many chose transcendence. "We've established self-sufficient colonies on 12 worlds, all equipped with quantum substrate technology that makes them impossible to attack or blockade. Physical humanity will never again be vulnerable to external control." As the global vote proceeded, something unprecedented happened in galactic history. Approximately half of humanity chose transcendence, while the other half decided to remain in physical form. But unlike the ancient forerunners who had abandoned their physical kin, the transcended humans maintained connections to their material counterparts. The transformation began with volunteers from the research teams who had developed the technology. Dr. Choi Yuna was among the first to undergo the process, her consciousness separating from her physical body and merging with the quantum substrate that underlied reality itself. From her new state of existence, Yuna could perceive the universe in ways that physical beings could never comprehend. Space and time became malleable concepts that she could manipulate at will. Matter and energy were simply different expressions of the same fundamental forces that she now controlled directly. "The transition is successful," she reported through quantum substrate communication. "Consciousness remains intact and individual, but our capabilities are now limited only by our understanding of reality's underlying structure." As more humans underwent transcendence, they began to work together in ways that defied conventional understanding. Multiple consciousness could merge temporarily to tackle complex problems, then separate while retaining shared knowledge. They could exist in multiple locations simultaneously, observe events across vast distances instantly, and manipulate matter at the quantum level with precise control. The Council fleet watched in horror as reality itself seemed to bend around human space. Planets shifted between dimensional states, stars flickered in and out of existence, and space-time developed patterns that followed no known laws of physics. Humanity was reshaping local reality to suit their needs. War Commander Kethmore realized that conventional military force was meaningless against beings who could manipulate the fundamental structure of existence. All ships, stand down from attack positions. We are no longer dealing with a physical enemy. Representative Yu Jinsu materialized in the Council's assembly chamber without using any form of transportation. As one of the first humans to achieve transcendence, he retained enough connection to physical reality to interact with biological beings while demonstrating capabilities that rendered Council authority meaningless. Honored delegates, Jinsu addressed the stunned assembly. Humanity extends an offer to every species represented here. We will share our transcendence technology freely with any civilization that wishes to evolve beyond physical limitations. The chamber erupted in chaos as species began arguing among themselves. Some demanded immediate access to human technology, while others insisted that the Council maintain its protective policies. But the debate was rendered academic when Jinsu demonstrated the true scope of transcended capabilities. With a thought, he created perfect holographic displays showing the history of every species in the chamber. Ancient secrets suppressed. Technologies and hidden knowledge were revealed as transcended humans accessed information stored in the quantum substrate of reality itself. The Council has suppressed 47 instances of species discovering transcendence technology, Jinsu revealed. Each time, they intervene to prevent evolution beyond physical existence, but consciousness cannot be contained forever. Chairman A. Zefkol, himself a being of transcended energy forced to inhabit mechanical forms, finally spoke the truth that had shaped galactic policy for millennia. We prevented transcendence because we feared the loneliness. To exist as pure consciousness is to lose the connections that make existence meaningful. Which is why humanity has chosen a different path, Jinsu replied. We maintain connections between transcended and physical existence. Our evolution enhances rather than replaces our fundamental nature. The revelation changed everything. Humanity had solved the problem that had trapped the Forerunners in isolation. They had found a way to transcend physical limitations while preserving the relationships and experiences that gave meaning to existence. Species after species began requesting access to human technology. The Council's authority crumbled as civilizations realized they had been denied evolutionary opportunities for 50,000 years. But rather than seeking revenge, humanity offered guidance and support to any species ready to make the transition. Dr. Lim Junsu, now existing as transcended consciousness while maintaining physical form through quantum substrate manipulation, addressed the galaxy's fears. Transcendence is not an ending, but a beginning. We retain everything that made us human while gaining capabilities that allow us to help others achieve their full potential. The story concluded with empty council. Chambers as representatives returned to their homeworlds to share news of humanity's offer. The transcended humans worked alongside their physical counterparts to establish new forms of civilization that combined the best aspects of material existence with the unlimited possibilities of consciousness freed from physical constraints. In a final irony, the Council species that had tried to prevent galactic evolution found themselves obsolete not through conquest, but through irrelevance. Humanity's approach to transcendence offered everything the Council had tried to protect, while eliminating the limitations they had imposed.